What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm JLag, and NB is away this week. So this week I am joined by my husband, Rob. Hello, Rob.
Hi.
Are you excited to get into this episode with me?
Very much so. It's been a while, so I'm ready to chat.
Let's do it. This episode is recapping and reviewing Riverdale Season 7, Episode 17, and it's called Chapter 134, A Different Kind of Cat. Don't forget to stay tuned to the very end. We're going to do our recap roundups, so make sure you're sticking around for that. And as always, to our continuing listeners and our brand new ones, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into the episode. All right. So what did you think of the episode overall?
I really liked it, and it really annoyed me all at the same time. I feel like there was really cute moments that I'm excited to talk about, but there were some moments that were not anyway.
Not great.
We'll talk about it. I've been waiting, so
let's get into it. I feel the same way. I feel like these last couple episodes, we only have 4 more episodes to the finale of the show, completely over. And I don't know, I just feel like it was good. There were some really, really high moments, but then there were some, especially that last moment. I don't even have to spoil it for anyone who's watched the episode. That final moment annoyed the crap out of me. So we're gonna go through the nitty gritty and we can like talk and laugh about the entire thing. So starts off with starts actually with Betty writing to her readers because she is the teen Mystique. And she talks about what happened, like all the way up to like what happened most recently, her mom slapping her last episode. And then she decides that she wants to write a book. So that's kind of like that first opening scene. Then we cut to Riverdale High, and Jughead walks in, and he has this like a little really quick moment with Veronica at the front steps where he's like, do you want me to go in first? Do you want me and she's like, no, let's walk in together. So they walk in together, but they don't just walk in together. They walk in hand, like the gag of all gags. First of all, Veronica, so late in the game. Like, let's talk about it right off the top. Like, what do you think about the fact that like they're putting them together 4 episodes before the end of the season?
Are they putting them together 4 episodes before the end of the season? Next season, is it going to be like Jughead wore a pink shirt today and I decided I don't like pink, so we're not together? Like, everything, I'm trying to like just enjoy and not get too married to anything, because I find that every time I get super excited about something, it's like within an episode, it's resolved, it's done. And then next thing you know, Veronica's making out with Betty, which I'm here for. But I'm just saying, I love it. Like, the season's coming to an end. Show us a little bit of, everything before you go. But also, like, if this isn't going to be a thing, like, why are we wasting time? I don't know.
I know that's the thing, right? Like, we've completely like separated ourselves from the original ships, if you want to look at it that way, and now we're literally hanging out with Veronica, which is not like we liked it the first time around. I liked it the first time around. I just don't know how long, to your point, like how long it's gonna last. And everyone else in the high school also feels like it's weird as they're walking through. There's like these slow motion shots. Everyone's kind of like, what? Betty's like, okay, I guess. Like, I guess that's happening right now. They do have a moment, and I guess this is kind of the reason why they're in this episode together. She talks, somehow it comes up that she was a sexy witch for Halloween. And then suddenly out of nowhere, he's like, ooh, sexy witch. And he sounds really interested in the concept of it all. And then they kiss, they go to class, whatever. So obviously we know, I feel like at this point I already knew, like, oh, okay, so is this like the birth of Sabrina the Teenage Witch? And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. But we'll get into that later. Then it cuts to Grundy reading Archie's latest poem, and she loves it. She's like, oh my gosh, it's so well done. It sounds so mature. And she asks him like what happened since his last poem. And he's like, oh yeah, like I just took your advice and I just like watched a bunch of sunsets. And obviously we know from last episode, he basically had a threesome with Reggie and Twyla Twist, which was did not go
Not
over
a
well.
sunset.
Not a definitely not a sunset. And so now he's feeling like a bit of an adult, and he's like, I'm gonna go back and keep getting those experiences. And she's like, yeah, keep doing whatever you're doing. So okay, we'll get into that a little bit later. Then it cuts to class, and Jughead's drawing Veronica as a witch on a broomstick. So again, kind of the lead up to Sabrina. And then it cuts to the lounge, and Reggie tells Julian about what happened with him, Twyla, and Archie. And Julian's obviously like, "Oh my god, is that what you did? You like took a ride on the town bike?" And so now everyone's kind of
Hypocrite.
yeah, exactly. Like everyone's hearing what's happening right now. Betty overhears it and she kind of gets upset. And it's a moment actually where we hear her getting upset about the fact that there's a bit of a double standard. So as Betty's leaving the lounge, she bumps into Cheryl by accident, drops all these pictures, and Cheryl drops all of her pictures of her and Tony during the boudoir shoot from last episode. And Betty's like, what's this all about? So she kind of chases her outside. They have a quick conversation. And essentially, Cheryl says that she wants to go public. She wants to go steady with Tony, which is pretty unheard of for a lesbian couple. And Betty's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, that's amazing. Awesome. But Cheryl wants to do it in a big, splashy way, which we don't really get a reveal of what that exactly is this episode. Um, and then as Cheryl's talking to Betty about this, she's like, don't tell anybody. Betty offers her a secret and reveals that she is the teen Mystique to Cheryl. And Cheryl's like, oh my God, that's amazing. I love your work. And Betty's like, that's awesome. I would love to, um, maybe put some of your pictures into my book, and B, like, would you be willing to take a few pictures of me for my photo shoot, like for my book? And Cheryl's like, yeah, absolutely. I'll get Tony to come over. We'll come over and we'll do a bunch of photos for you. That sounds awesome. So nice setups. Everything's like looking really cute. Like at this point in the episode, I'm like, this is going somewhere interesting.
A little chaotic in the beginning. Like the thing is, I liked it all. Like, first of all, the one thing that I will say about Betty being an ally, when your homegirl sits in front of you and says, yeah, like I'm a lesbian, I'm going steady, like whatever,
Yeah.
which to clarify is not heard of for lesbians at that time. That was like a big, obviously, as we know.
Yeah.
But then Betty's like, no, no, girl, like here's my tea so that like you don't ever have to sit there and be like, but you know all this about me. Like, I'm going to give you an olive branch, which is like, I'm the girl that writes this. And the fact that she was like, why don't you tell your story? Give me those pictures. And then meanwhile, like, if you just look at the setup of it all, Archie's like, oh, I'm a poet and like, whatever. And then Betty's like, how come Jughead and Veronica are together? Then Cheryl's like, I'm a lesbian and drop my photos everywhere. Like, I was like, what is the storyline we're following here?
Right.
Because it was all building up. But I did think it was a really sweet moment between Betty and Cheryl, and I was kind of excited to see where they went with it.
Yeah, for sure. And it does, like, it leads to something I mean, interesting is a word that you can use for that. So anyway, then it cuts to the Babylonium, and someone walks into the theater. Like, you don't know who it is at this point. And then while Jughead is showing Veronica this teenage witch drawing, Clay comes in. He's like, you need to come and see who just showed up at the theater. And sure enough, it is our very own Josie frickin' McCoy. How did you feel about Josie showing up to Riverdale?
It was like a slow gag for me because the entrance in historically in Riverdale, that entrance always leads to a villain. So for a
True.
hot second, I was like, if all this is just because Veronica's mom is back now that Hiram's got, like, I was very confused. I was like, who's pulling up to the theater? Like, so to see that it was Josie, I was super excited. I also was super excited because of like the look and everything. Like, to me, it was I would say one of Josie's best looks and like vibes. Like I was living for it.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I mean, like she comes in like a actress. Like she's like this musician, theater person. So I loved her vibe this episode. But anyway, so we meet her for the first time in this world. She's obviously like aged higher than these kids, even though they all look the same age. Um And she says to Veronica she's putting out her first produced, directed, starred in motion picture, but she wants to do a test screening at Veronica's theater. And the film is called Going Uptown, which is based, I looked it up later, it's based on a film that is based off the musical Wild Party, starring Eartha Kitt. Eartha Kitt's an amazing Black actress of the years. She's a bit of an icon. If you don't know who she is, look her up. But after learning this, I did see a lot of Eartha Kitt inspiration in Josie's character, which I thought was really, really cool. That she was kind of pulling from like some real historical stuff. They also talk after she shows the film, like, because she's like, oh, I just want to see like if your theater is going to be able to handle my film. That was kind of her first test. So they play the film. Everyone's so happy. Clay and Kevin are like crying at the end. And then they have a drink afterward, and Veronica basically offers to take her around town. She's like, you know, first of all, we should do a premiere and like just like call it a premiere and like do the whole thing. And I almost called her Eartha Kitt. Josie basically says like, no, I just want to like see if this is the right vibe for this town, for this for this film. And so Veronica says like, yeah, I'll take you around town, you can check out everything. It's super, super hep, I guess that's the word. Like super hep, like happening, like maybe that's where it comes. I have no idea.
I was lost on that one.
I was lost on that one. And she says that she's gonna stay with her at the Pembroke. And already you can see like some really cute chemistry between her and Veronica. They've always had good chemistry, but like to see them back on screen together, it was like such a, I don't know, so refreshing. It felt very I don't know, it felt like kind of like old school, but like not, obviously not in the same world. It's a different situation completely. What did you think of seeing Josie for the first time in a very, very long time?
Honestly, I loved it. Like I said, I think this is Josie's best vibe. I think she nailed the like overall of like the essence that she needed to give.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't like, I didn't feel distracted by how she was acting it. And like, if you've ever listened to like Eartha Kitt's music, or if you've ever listened to like Eartha Kitt and like in an interview, like any of it, like I feel like
Interviews, yeah.
she was just giving very that.
Like sultry and like, I don't know, she had a very specific way to she spoke, or the kid spoke in a very interesting, beautiful way, in my opinion. Yeah, she
But
was
she didn't
definitely giving
do
that.
the rasp. Like the thing is that like what I like
Yes.
about it was that she did it without doing it. And sometimes I think if you're not going to nail it exactly, just give the essence because it comes across stronger.
Right.
And
Yeah,
especially if you're impersonating someone,
absolutely.
um, you know, don't do it as a direct impersonation if you're not going to be able to do that. And I think she did that amazing because she wasn't out here completely distorting her voice, but her word choice and her sentence like pauses were very I think she did a great job.
Yeah, I agree. I think she was fantastic in the role. And yeah, I think it was just nice to see Josie show up for this final season, even though, like it was just a kind of an out there storyline for her. But anyway, we'll get back to her and her being in this entire episode later. So yeah, that happens. Then it cuts to Archie. He goes to visit Twyla at the motel. He literally brings her flowers as a high school student brings like, I was just like, I can't deal with this right now. Twyla basically says like, we can't do that, like we're not doing this is not a thing that we do together all the time. Like, why don't you go hook up with like another woman? Like, you're a cute little boy, like go like hang out with someone else. Like, she's like, if you get my hint. She takes the flowers and he leaves, and he's like, okay, cool. What do you think about the way they've set this whole situation up with Twyla? Like, is it
Like,
cringe?
eh, is it
Like, is it
necessary?
necessary? I think that's the
Like,
question. Yeah, that's true.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't care. I
I
don't.
don't.
You know what
Yeah,
I
I know.
mean?
That's the
Like,
thing. I just don't
okay,
care about
cool. Like, I'm not
this.
like cool. But I'm like, at the end of the day, I think the thing that's always annoying is that, like, the reason I said hypocrite earlier when we were talking about Julian, like, show Julian going to see Twyla. Like, the one running his mouth, always doing the most, he should be the one that's popping up at Twyla's door. Now, I don't know that I believe that after that first experience with Reggie, I don't know that I believe that Archie's character would have showed up with flowers. I get the image, like they were showing this like wholesome boy being like, brought you flowers. I just don't know, even at that time, if a teenage boy would be like, I'm gonna go back and see the town prostitute. Let me just stop by the florist and get a nice little bouquet. But
Right, right.
Twyla taking the flowers and being like, goodbye. Get it, girl, as you should.
Yeah,
Hustle
exactly.
these men for anything, a dollar, flowers, whatever they got, take it all.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't I mean, I get that his character would probably be the one to have done that. I just don't feel like it feels realistic at all. I mean, we do know that Julian did hook up with Twyla to like lose his virginity. Like we know that that's the part of that story, but outside of that, I'm just like, why, Archie, are you going back for this like similar experience? Like there's not much, like he clearly didn't learn much from that first experience, that he thinks that he needs to go back a second time to get more experience. Like it's very bizarre. And I'm like,
That's just
what?
called hormones, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah. But at the same time, I'm also just like, was he going by the direction of Miss Grundy? Because he's like, I'll do whatever you say. Kind of like, it's got a vibe of like he's just kind of doting on whatever Miss Grundy says, because she basically says like, whatever you're doing, do it more. So I'm just like, I don't know what it's leading to, and then what happens later on turns into like a minor predatory moment. So I'm just like, anyway, we'll get to that later, but I'm not really sure where they were trying to go with this storyline with Archie, honestly. So then the next scene is Cheryl and Tony going over to Betty's with like a bunch of like film equipment and taking all these photos. I don't know how they just like decided to like walk through the front door without Alice seeing anything, or like thinking that it was inconspicuous, like this random thing that these two girls are just walking through the front door with like literally a backdrop, lighting, this gigantic camera. Like, okay, like let's do the damn thing. Um, but yeah, I guess a cute, quick moment. I don't know how to feel about these random scenes that we keep getting.
I was so apprehensive. I thought for sure that Alice was going to bust it. I was like, if you're doing all this for Alice to walk in and be like, because one minute Betty can't flick her hair without Alice popping out of a closet or jumping out of a lamp. The next thing you
Yeah,
know, they're hauling in a full boudoir photography setup, which back then cameras were
like
big boxes.
massive. Yeah,
And I was like, if all of this is just for Alice to throw a fit, like I'm gonna lose it. But cool, whatever. I thought I was living. I think these are the cute moments that I say that I was living for, because I was like, honestly, we've all invested so much time. Just give us some fan service, give us a few cute moments between the characters, and let's call it a day.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay, so then that happens. Then it cuts to Riverdale High the next morning, and Tony and Fangs. First of all, when did Tony basically become like Fangs' like manager? Like, did I miss an episode where like she's just like took on this role of like Fangs is gonna perform, he's gonna become the best of the best? Like, where did that even happen? Like, I don't even know.
They ride for
But
each
like,
other.
exactly, I was like, sure, Tony, go get it. So Tony and Fangs approach Veronica in the lounge and basically say, I heard that Josie is in town. We're going to get him to perform in front of her. Just letting you know that that's what's happening at the dark room. Cool, cool, cool. Everything's good to go. Veronica's like, wow, like news travels fast. Then it cuts to Archie bringing Grundy an apple, Miss Grundy an apple, and he says he's going to be performing a poem at the dark room as well, and that she should come see the performance at the dark room. And she's like, I would love to for my favorite student. So already
Yeah.
I'm just like about to like throw up in my mouth a little bit. Then it cuts to Pep Comics, and Jughead shows Mr. Fieldstone the teenage witch concept, and Fieldstone loves it, but also he's like, because it has to go through like a tribunal, can you just like change like basically everything? He wants him to change her hair, he wants her to be a blonde, you need to change her name. Veronica's too sexy. It sounds too like sultry and curvy. And he says like change her outfit completely. She can't wear what she's wearing right now. It's too racy. So like give her a bunch of different vibes, different energy. We all know it's walking toward Sabrina the Teenage Witch. What did you feel about this
Okay,
moment?
here's my thing. It's the fact that he was like, they will never go for a witch. Make her a half witch.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
sat in front of all those
That
people
was the
and your
moment.
ass said, you know what? They're not going to go for a witch, but a half witch. Said
Maybe.
who? When? You're
Yeah,
talking about
in
a
what
time
world?
when my people, my left-handed people, were accused of being witches. And I'm like, you were out here accusing people of left-handed of being a witch, and you thought a half witch was going to make these like highly conservative people be like, you know,
Moment.
I almost canceled your comic, but I realized she's a half witch. We're good with it.
We're good. We're good. We're just gonna go with that. Yeah, I know. I agree with you. Like I was just like, what a random thing to like bring up even. Like it's not even something that would be like, oh wow, because she's a half witch, we're gonna totally like let this get published. Like
No.
it's not, if anything, it's just more confusing. Um anyway, so that happens. Cool. Then it cuts to the photo dark room. Because I had to like differentiate because we have the dark room and then the real dark room. And Betty is now choosing a picture that Cheryl has developed of her for her main photo. She's like, choose your favorite, and then I will turn that one into an oil painting. And essentially Betty basically says like, I'm so excited for this, however I feel like I'm a bit of a fraud because like I haven't really had like a sexual experience yet. And Cheryl essentially says like, girl, like you don't need a man, like you could do the damn thing by yourself, like go masturbate. And
I was living. I
i
was
was
living.
I was living, but also I'm just
Living.
like like Betty learning about sex this season has been so interesting because she's been both extremely open with her sexuality as a person, but also like extremely like un like no knowledge whatsoever as to how any sex even happens. Like a few episodes ago with that whole thing with Fangs, and she was like, how did Midge and Fangs get pregnant? Like how did that even happen? Like she acts like she's so like not like with it at all. I'm just like, I don't know, for someone who's so interested in sex, you'd think that she would have
Right.
touched an erogenous zone around her body and like felt herself up a bit like by now. I
But
don't
I feel
know,
like
I don't know.
in high school, I feel like it's that whole topic and everything is so different because as men,
That's
you
true.
are not spoken to the same way about these things. But I think
Right.
why I loved it was because I'm trying to think of the right ways to say this
Like
politically
in an
correct,
eloquent
but
way. Yeah, I know,
in
I
an
know.
eloquent way. But I think it's like we've all seen it. The gay guy and the girl, they sit down, they swap tips on how to do the damn thing and
Right.
whatnot. But for two women to have this conversation, and for once, can we let lesbians into the conversation? Because who knows better? It's not just about talking to a woman.
That's
Talk about a
true.
woman who's about that life, and Cheryl's about that life. And the reason
Yeah.
why I liked it was because we always gas up the men when it comes sexually, and we like explore their things. With Betty going through this whole thing, I love that it was just like, as a matter of fact, Cheryl didn't tell her like, just you can find someone. Guys are like always willing. Cheryl was like, oh girl, you don't need a man. And that was the realest thing that's been said in the show. She was like, you know what, Betty, I'm gonna just cut to the chase. Even if you find someone to do that with you, they're not gonna take you where you need to go. You know who will? You, girl. You go home, take my little femininity
Book.
magazine, go
Yeah.
home and learn about yourself because nobody. And then I love the way that it
Let's
said, like
see.
the thing was like, only you, like, or you only need to worry about pleasing you. I was like, if more women were taught this, okay, I'm telling you. So I was living. I was like, get a girl.
True. That's no, that's a really good way to look at it for sure. It's more just like within the realm of this all to attach it to Betty is an interesting choice, but I guess they wouldn't have put it with anyone else because it's true. It's an interesting way to look at it because I don't really obviously see it that way um as a cis male, but I think that like, you know, the woman's perspective, the female perspective of this is like very interesting. Um All right. So then it cuts to, so she gets the magazine, she's good to go. Cuts to Jughead and Veronica workshopping again this teenage witch concept. They're like sitting at the Pembroke, and Veronica suggests, because he's like, oh yeah, well, this is what they said. They want to turn her blonde. She's too sexy, and they want to change her name. Veronica suggests the name Sabrina because Audrey Hepburn played this like magical, very like cool character named Sabrina in a film that came out the year before. And that's how they came up with the name Sabrina. So Sabrina the Teenage Witch is born, question mark,
Born?
like that's the thing that's happening now. Then it cuts to, anyway, I have a lot, I don't know what to say about that part, so I'm just gonna leave it until we get to the final destination for that storyline. Anyway, then it cuts to the dark room. Archie reads his poem. It is like the
You are
worst.
brave calling that a poem.
That was,
No.
I I just I don't even know what to say about that poem.
Okay, tell me right now how Archie was like, Twyla doesn't want nothing to do with me. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna write a poem about my teacher for my teacher, describing my teacher and everything I'm thinking. I'm gonna invite her to the
To
dark
the
room in front of a
show.
bunch of other high school students. I'm going to read it to her, and then I'm gonna open my mouth, lockjaw like a pit bull, and take the biggest, most dramatic bite. And the thing that I love is nobody tried to co-sign his bullshit. They were like,
Like,
well, thank God that's over. Like,
yeah, legit.
I I just can't. Tony getting up and being like, okay, the iciest room now. Like, I was
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, because he could have written a better poem. But anyways, go ahead.
I just know, I 100%. I know it was supposed to be a cringy moment, but like it was like overly cringe. Like I felt for everyone in the room, and it was just, and it was a hard thing to watch also because yes, it was a terrible poem, but why did it have to be such a terrible poem for him to make the point that he was like trying to like get with his teacher? Like he claims to be better at writing now. Like is it just because it's coming from a place of desperation? Like I feel like we're
Couldn't
missing
she?
that whole moment, like the whole reasoning as to why Archie is navigating this awkward experience with poetry. Like why is that even happening? Like I don't even know.
Couldn't she have simply gotten like? Couldn't there have been a more subtle, like the subtle reference of the apple? But then he's like, and your glasses, what's behind your glasses? And you're there. Like, what did you
Yeah,
expect her to
yeah, exactly.
do? You literally called her out in front, and literally everyone in the room is like, and oh,
And
and
I
then it
oop,
was
yeah.
like, oh, Archie, that just wasn't it. That just wasn't it.
Like even Josie, and that was the worst part of it all. Like once he finished, Josie was like, I don't know if I want to be in this town at this point. Like this was horrible. Like I can't even sit here and feel like that was like the coolest thing that happens in Riverdale. So of course Veronica like assures her, don't worry, it'll like there's some more good stuff coming. And then thankfully Tony is like, to heat this place up a bit more, Fangs is going to perform, and he performs, what was it? One of those bops. Uh
Great
and
balls of
is a
fire.
great balls of fire. Yeah, yeah. And everyone loves it. He performed it, everyone loved it, and as he's performing it, there's like two cut-ins. The first cut-in is Betty taking her special little personal bath, which was like pretty racy for Riverdale to show essentially a woman pleasuring herself in a bathtub.
Was it
Um
though?
I mean, yeah, fair. And then also it cuts to Cheryl painting Betty's portrait for the front cover.
Let's stop right there. This was my first. I literally, hang on. What was my exact words? I literally wrote down Cheryl paints in record time. Like when I tell you that it was like in any other movie where there's like an oil painting, the storyline is always like, oh, you're still going to the garage to work on that oil painting of yours.
Yeah.
Cheryl went home and with one brush stroke was able to outline all of Betty, all her features, all everything. And then the gag is when she finally shows it to Betty, she's like, I stayed up all night. On the background,
Yeah,
girl, that
legit.
painting was painted. The show wasn't even over at the theater, and you already
And
had
you were
three-quarters
already
of that
done.
painting. So what did you do when you got to the background and smoked a joint and then it took you all night? Like what?
I don't even, and that's the thing too. I'm just like, everyone who is an actual oil painter knows that it takes like literal weeks for it to even dry. So you wouldn't even travel with it. Anyway, whatever. Logistically, clearly, Cheryl is an amazing painter and like did the damn thing. But okay, cool. Like why we're going to the logistics of a painting and portrait when none of this show makes sense, like I don't know, I don't even know why we bother. Okay, so then it cuts to Josie talking about Fang's performance. She's like, oh my god, he's such a talent. She wants him to play the bongos while she performs something called a song. I guess it's, I want to say it's like a spoken word song called a different kind of cat, and it's originally performed by Eartha Kitt herself. So I went to watch that, and it's very similar in terms of like having a chaise lounge, and she's like talking and singing.
That
Really
was her
cool.
style.
Yeah, really interesting way to like perform because we've seen Josie like belt it and she's obviously a talented singer, but to see her do like spoken word in the style of Eartha Kitt in this time period, like this is the only time this would ever happen. So it's cool that they took advantage, I will say, of putting her into this moment. So I really like that.
I love it.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Then it cuts to oh, then she decides that by the end of it all, she wants to screen her film. And they ask her also if she would like to attend a Black Athena class or get together. They explain what it is. It's a literary group for all the Black students of Riverdale High. And she's like, absolutely, that sounds amazing. So then it cuts to Riverdale High, and Archie is already in Mrs. Grundy's room, and she shows up, and he's like, "Oh, like, you left before we could talk about my poem. Like, what did you think of my poem?" And she's like, "Oh, well, like, I had to go home to my husband." Like, she had to like make it very, very clear that like she's like not interested. Just letting you know, like Grundy is off the table, which of course is something that I'm sure a lot of people are still arguing about in terms of like why Grundy. She was the big pedophile from the first season, took advantage of him. This is her like retribution moment, obviously, but like they're really pushing that she has like zero interest in Archie romantically. And he, if anything, is going to be pushing any of those feelings that you would have for a teacher, which I guess are possible, but like why did they even go with that? I don't know. I have to stop asking questions when it comes to the show, but anyway, that happens, and she does say we need to switch gears a bit, and she wants him to branch out into something else, like focus on pain this time. Like, let's talk about your hardest pain, physical pain, emotional pain, but don't talk about like high school heartbreak. Like that's the one thing that's not on the table. Talk about any other type of pain and like write about that. And he's like, whatever you say, Miss Grundy. So going back to that whole idea of like the fact that he like dotes on her, I don't know if they should have like, I don't know, uglied her up a little bit or like what it is. Why do we have, even seasons later, knowing how problematic that relationship was in season one, why do you think that we're still playing with this dynamic with these characters?
I don't know if it's
Or do you get that vibe? I don't know.
I get that what is the alternative? What is the alternative? You know what I mean? If you're keeping some interest, you're calling back to the first season, you're wrapping it up, you want these familiar things that remind you how long you've invested in this show. I'm just making like this is just my opinion.
Yeah, that's
I just
fair.
think if the opposite of her not being interested in following the storyline, if anything else, maybe it does show that, students are young and it's up to you as the adult to speak up and be like, that's not cool. What I don't get is how they still play her it with a flirtatious or tormented tone.
That's what I'm
So
saying. Yeah,
I
like
don't know if they're trying to make it seem like she has these feelings, but she knows better. But like,
right.
whatever. The point is, Archie, your poem, it needs to bounce. If the next poem is Eve ate an apple and told me to write about pain, I'm out. Like
Yeah.
I'm about to write a haiku for my exit. Like I
Let's
can't.
move. Let's move. Yeah, exactly.
A
I
hundred
will.
percent.
We'll see what happens with their relationship, I guess, or just like their whatever they have together. A part of me feels like maybe they're using Grundy, and the reason why she's back is so it does have this kind of full circle moment to the first episode of Riverdale to kind of like bookend the entire thing to show that there's some sort of circular, cyclical, like infinity experience that you get with this Riverdale story. And that's the only reason why she's a part of it. And she's not doing it in a sexually predatory way. She's doing it in a very helpful, like I am a teacher way, and like in this universe. So I don't
Right.
know. I don't know. We'll see. Um Cheryl then shows Betty the painting that she did literally within 24 hours. Like, boom, she did it.
2 hours.
Congratulations. I know, right? And she loves it. Betty's like, she's like, it's so beautiful, and Cheryl's like, you're so beautiful. It was a cute little moment between the two of them. Like,
Love it.
I was good for it.
Obsessed. Obsessed.
Then it cuts to Jughead showing Sabrina the Teenage Witch to Mr. Fieldstone, like the final version. He loves it, the blonde bob and everything, and it's literally Sabrina as we know her in the comics. Um, and he wants to present it now to the tribunal as soon as possible because like this could be the one that like keeps Pep Comics going, right? Because like they have nothing to produce right now. Then it cuts to the Black Athena meeting, and I thought this was a really powerful scene. I'm gonna put that out there right from the top. Like they all talk to Josie about, you know, how she feels about having her you know, her platform as a singer, an actress, and she has this beautiful speech to everyone about the fact that as Black people living in this world, we are all beautiful, we all have our story, we all have unique experiences moving through this world as Black people. And I just thought it was a really beautifully
Iconic.
well thing. Like it was just so well done. I love the writing in this moment.
So this is a callback. The thing that I love about this, I'm obsessed. This is a callback to what I think, and I mean, I haven't seen many. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a huge Eartha Kitt stan, but obviously, Lord knows I've seen enough Eartha Kitt numbers at Continental. But um, this is a callback to that famous interview. Well, it's famous in my world. I think everybody else knows it, but of her saying, "Compromise for what?"
Mm,
And if you have not seen it, like get on YouTube and Google Eartha Kitt compromise. That's all you need to type in. There'll be different versions. There's the full interview, but it's a famous thing where essentially the interviewer asks her and says, you know, they're talking about relationships, and he's basically asking her, like, if a man came into your life, like, or would you compromise? And she's like, compromise for what? And he said, if a man came into your life, and she calls him on it. And then she does this guttural laugh that I'm obsessed with. Anyways, the whole thing is just worth watching, and it really takes a minute to pause. And again, going back to what I said about if you're not doing a direct impersonation, I like the fact that they didn't try to have her speech have that same moment that Eartha had. I like the
right.
fact that they just called it out so those who know. Um, and it's a good way to make you want to dive in and get to know Eartha Kitt better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I was obsessed. I was obsessed.
Yeah. Really, really good moment. And her final thing is also she says how she's inspired by Black Athena and how it exists at all. And you know, Tony tells her why she started it, how she felt like she was having to conform to a town that kept telling her to be a certain way, and she was like, no, I don't want to be this way, this is who I am. And that's why Black Athena kind of started. That's one of the reasons why. And I don't know, I just thought it was a beautiful communal moment for the black students of Riverdale High to have this forum to like speak to it. Like it felt really powerful coming in at the very end of the season for them to have the ability to like shoo this one in. And it wasn't just like this like, oh, there she is, like let's all clap for her. It was real, it felt really meaningful. The writing was really, really good. And what both Tony and even Clay and Josie say are is was great. I loved it.
The episode should have been called "I'm Tired." Betty was tired of
Yeah,
everything going on, so she was the Cheryl was tired of lying, and she was like, "I'ma just do me." Josie rolls up and is like, "Oh, Black Athena was created because y'all tired. I'm tired. I'm gonna
we're
go
all
barge into
tired.
Veronica's office." Like,
Yeah,
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 it should
yeah.
have just been, "I'm tired."
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely the theme of this episode. So then it cuts to the Babylonium, and Josie says now, like after having this meeting, she's like, I want Veronica to do or to put this premiere together. Originally, she didn't want to do it; she just wanted to do like a test screen, but now she wants to do a premiere. It turns out that she kind of fibbed to Veronica and said like she's doing this essentially behind like all studios' backs, like she's she financed this herself. She wanted to really put this thing out there, and it was because it was adapted from the Broadway that she was so famous for. um and they were making a movie. When she found out they were making a movie version of what she's been performing on Broadway, it turned out that the studio wanted to bring in a white actress. And so Josie talks about the fact that, like, I am a talent, I know that I can do this, that's why I put this out there, and now I want this to be out there for people to see. And I thought this was also a very powerful moment, watching Veronica and Josie like really pour herself. Like Ashley Murray, the actress, is, I feel like she really showed a lot of talent. Like we've seen her throughout the seasons, but something about her in this season and this episode like felt so much more, I felt way deeper. Like it hit me in a place that like hasn't hit me with Josie's character at all. And after all that said, Veronica says, I'm going to put up the best premiere you'll ever see. They're going to want a bidding war for your film after I'm done.
Loved it.
Yeah, I just thought
Loved
it was so
again.
good.
Sweet moments that made me say, like, just give us what we want and
Just
let
give
us
us what
see
we want. Give
certain
us the fan
things, and it's
service. This is
fine.
exactly what we need. Exactly. So then it cuts to the phone call with Fangs and Midge, the blah, blah, blah. Fangs basically says he got a meeting with a producer in New York, Alexander Cabot, which is, of course, a shout out to Katie Keene. And she's just happy for him. She's like, yay, you're like making it big. Like this whole thing is happening. Again, I don't know how I feel about Fangs and Midge. Why are they getting any airtime to begin with? At least she's showing now, like she's a little pregnant. Like you can see it. Before you couldn't see shit. So like I don't know. How do you feel about this relationship that they keep throwing in your face, even though no one asked for
I
it?
don't know. You know what it is? Sometimes it feels like when you see, when you see aerial shots of all the highways crisscrossing all over each other and you're like,
Yeah,
who could drive on that?
yeah.
It's like, am I supposed to be following like Tony and Fangs as like manager performer duo? Am I supposed to be like Midge and like Sisters of Quiet Mercy? Like I don't know. I
There's
like Midge. Nothing against anybody. I just
right.
don't know. I'm like, okay, this is a good filler scene. Like next.
Yeah, I just don't know what their purpose is. Honestly, I don't know why we keep seeing these scenes. Like it doesn't make any sense to me at this point. Anyway, so then it cuts to Pep Comics, and turns out that they, sure enough, reject the freaking comic that of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Um, and later, the next scene is the Pembroke, and Jughead basically telling Veronica what happened, and Veronica says she's ahead of her time. Um, like that is the reason why they haven't they didn't go with it.
And then are we going to talk about the suit?
Yes, we'll get to the suit in a second. But before the suit, now that this whole Sabrina the Teenage Witch storyline is over, like, what did you think the purpose of it all was? Was it just to show that there was like the inception and concept of Sabrina like gets like a shout out? Like, what was the purpose of that at all?
I think, listen, they had to do something with Jughead and the comics, but I
Yeah,
will
I guess.
say, if we're talking fan service, yeah, throw it to Sabrina. Now, would I have died if Sabrina had walked in and been like, we got to talk because, like, you're going to bait my scene? It's a wrap. I would have lived. I would
Yeah.
have
See, that would have been
fallen out
so
of my chair
good.
if, like, but I will say this. Uh, and again, this is like on no basis, so don't come for me in the comments if you're like, everyone knows this and I don't. But the way the milkman,
Yeah.
like the milkman comics, and then the milkman was running around, I was like, if there was something about the comics creating and like him creating Sabrina the Teenage Witch was
Brought
creating.
it to
So,
life in a way.
and I was
Yeah.
like, there could have been some. Do I think we have enough episodes? No,
Hell
this
no.
is me
There's no
right
time.
now.
No time for
But
nothing.
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. Like, why not?
Yeah.
What, look, you're gonna look at all that and you're gonna say the Sabrina's the problem? No.
Yeah.
But hey, whatever, like it works.
So my only other theory, my final theory to this whole comic book storyline, if that is what it is at all, if you want to call it a storyline, is we know that Sabrina the Teenage Witch came after Riverdale. Sorry, the Archie comics. Do you think that the final story of all of this, because she says, oh, Sabrina is just ahead of her time, that they're shelving that only for Jughead to conceptualize for the tribunal at the very final episode, the Archie comics, and that is going to be the final story? Like, Jughead is like,
Ooh.
I'm going to do this story. It's going to be Archie as the main character. We're all going to have a role in it. And that is going to be like what ends up getting sent out. And the world is happy. And he is the creator of the comics. Like, are
It's
we okay?
like
And super meta.
biography. Yeah, like it's like I kind of get it though. The way you say that, I'm like, yeah, Archie was, the Archie comics were born from a time where all of that was, so it was easier to make teenage characters simple to the point with these little teenage storylines that kind
Right.
of didn't. But I mean, yeah, I could see that. I think that's kudos to you. I didn't go that far. Not me sitting here expecting like Sabrina to walk in the door. Meanwhile, you're like, yeah, we're talking about Archie right now, but we're good.
Yeah. No, but that was a good throw too, because I'm just like, maybe I would have loved to see that happen. And I just looked it up. The Archie comics started in 1942. So we're technically like 6 years ahead, because I think we're in 1956 or something like that. Like, we're in the 50s. So this is already past when Archie's comics in our
Wait,
world, in the real world, actually got published for the first
when
time.
did you say Archie started?
1941.
And then
um
you thought 6 years later brought us to the 1950s?
I don't know math,
Can we
so
get a calculator? Hi.
okay,
Can we get a fact check in
we're
aisle
gonna
two?
scratch that. We're gonna scratch that one. We're gonna cut that one. Yes. Anyways, so there's no linkage there necessarily, but maybe the conceptualization in this universe is how it all happens. Anyway, we'll see.
I'm living.
Um, anyway, now we can talk about the suit. She gets him a suit for the premiere. We're all excited. What did you want to say about the suit?
The way she casually was like, to your exact measurements.
Oh yeah, right. Like, how did she know
Okay,
that?
Stalker, did you hug him and you're like, he's
He's a
a
30.
he's a 30
He's a 30
waist.
wide.
He's a
Yeah.
but anyways, it was just a small detail. I was just laughing because Veronica has these rich girl moments sometimes that are way
Yes.
out there. So
Yes.
rather than be like, I've got you a suit, shall we go see my tailor? She's like, I got you a suit already tailored. So I just want to point
Yeah,
out
yeah,
the
yeah.
caliber of talent. You've got Cheryl who can do a full oil painting in literally before the dark room can finish a show, she's
She's
three-quarters done,
done. Yeah.
but still stays up all night to make it perfect. Veronica, she takes one look at her man and she's like, measurements, hips, chest,
I
waist.
know
Here's
everything.
your suit. Betty is like, I don't even know how to touch myself. And Archie's like, I can't write a poem. Like the like
Yeah, everybody's got a superpower in this season too. I have no idea what's going on. Yeah, so she gets him a suit ready for the premiere. Then in between all that, it cuts to Archie at home getting ready for the premiere as well. He's going to be working it. It shows like his movie man, I don't know how do you call it, like, usher. Jesus, I was like movie man suit. Um his usher suit on his bed, and as he's getting ready he decides to write a poem about his dad. He looks over at a picture and he starts writing ode to my father, or an ode to my dad. um and so then it cuts to the premiere, this movie premiere that they set up to for Josie. I was so excited to see her like get all the accolades. Like everybody's snapping photos of her. She gets to put her hands in concrete in front of the theater. I thought that was a really cute moment. A bunch of important critics show up to the show as everyone's sitting down, and as they're about to play this movie, it burns and it stops, and like it's just like a moment, because I did not think that was going to happen. I thought they were just going to play it through. I didn't look at the time and see that there was more time for drama. So they started playing it. It burns, and then everyone freaks out. It's actually one of my favorite moments of. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say everyone freaks out, or
Veronica freaks
Veronica
out,
loses her mind.
loses it. Clay, because Clay and Kevin have to like now cut it, splice it, and put it back together, and then re-reel it. And Veronica loses it on them. I was dying of laughter. It was so funny to me watching her be like, "You guys are fired, and also we're not even friends anymore, and also you guys are not getting any more disc." Like she just like laid it down on him. I was dying. It was like the funniest moment of the entire episode, in my opinion.
So funny. And I have to admit, I had like a moment. You know, sometimes I'm either dead on or I'm way off.
Yeah.
So I thought she was talking to them like one at a time for a hot second, because she's like, "You're fired and we're not friends anymore." I was like,
like
well,
one at a time. Yeah.
And then I got it, but like for a split second, I was like, "Well, how come he got fired and he just loses the friendship?" Like,
yeah,
what?
exactly. Yeah, no, that's funny. But yeah, she loses it on them. Josie tells them like, "Calm down, everybody, chill. This has happened to me before. Like, I'll sing a song. Like, how much time do you guys need?" They say we need just about 6 minutes. She's like, "Cool. I'll sing a song out front. Let's do this." So then she sings a song called "Going Uptown," which is the title track, which is a real song, but I think it's called something different in the real world. I forgot what it's actually called. But really good performance as well. Like she gets to have two performances this episode, which I was really, really happy to see. Ashley Murray is just a freaking talent. Like she did such a great job in this role. After the film, it finally all plays really, really well. And they talk about a quick review from one of the reviewers that were in the audience. And the review was like super like stellar. Like they loved it. They call her a star is born. Just like such a big moment for her. And once again, like another really great moment between Josie and Veronica, where they have like a great connection. They're talking about how wonderful it is. Veronica's so proud of her. She's like, you've always been a star. You're so fantastic. You're such a talent. And Josie has a really cute moment with her at the very end where she's like, "Veronica, what are you doing in this small dinky ass town? Like you should be making movies. Like you seem like you should be doing something special, like something different." And I thought that was really cute. I don't know if that's going anywhere. It probably won't. Again, we only have 4 more episodes, and I don't think Veronica in the next 4 episodes is going to be like, "I'm going to be an actress." Like, I don't know what any of that means. Like, or does she want to be a producer?
Producer.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I took it as producer.
Yeah. I think that makes more sense, because being an actress, I'm like, oh, what is happening here? But yeah, final moments of Josie on the show. I was really happy to see it.
Josie, girl, you can go home. You can dust everything off. You can crawl into bed and you can sleep well knowing like you came, you did that. We're good.
Yeah, absolutely. She did a great job. And then the final scene is Archie getting home, and Frank is in his room drinking again, and he's reading the poem that he wrote, and basically he's just pissed off. He's like, "Don't you ever write about your dad like that? After what he did to like for your family, it's so embarrassing. Like, why would you do that?" He just like loses it on freaking Archie. And then the episode is over. And then that's the final thing that we get from Frank and Archie. And it's like a very devastating moment to finish the episode on. What did you think of that final scene?
I should just talk and you should just bleep out everything that I'm about to say. No, I was irritated. You know what it is? Like, where's Molly
It.
Ring? Where's my girl? Like,
Yeah, where's Mary?
Where's Archie's mom? Get Mary in there. Like, I can't with the uncle, but I get it was a different time back then. And so like a male figure would have been seen as like crucial to a young boy being brought up. Mary wouldn't have been, but you're talking about a woman that went and cussed all her friends and was like, be better moms to your kids.
Yeah.
She would have cussed Archie's uncle and sent his ass packing. The only thing I don't understand, and I wanna really say this, God bless Luke Perry, God rest your soul, but he exited, and you took the nicest, most ethical character, in my opinion, and you replaced it with his evil brother for majority of these seasons. Like, Frank, ain't nobody got time for you. Your name is good for one thing, hot sauce. I'm not out here trying to listen to you talk to your nephew. Like, nobody cares. Like, nobody,
Yeah.
like, Frank,
100%.
man. Also, like, we're already getting it from Alice and Cheryl's dad. Can there be one beacon of hope in this goddamn town?
Well, I agree with you 100%. And I feel like they put it towards the end of the episode or this final scene because likely, just like we did for Alice, which I still don't feel like she got her like full retribution moment at all. I mean, she slapped her daughter last episode, but I think they're going to try to do this a little bit of backtracking with Frank in the next couple of episodes and really just show his pain because that's the only way out of this is showing that like I know pull out the violence, but like I feel like that's all we're going to be getting. It's going to be him saying how much he misses his brother, and that's really why he's feeling, putting so much pressure on Archie, and he wants to fill his shoes, but he could never fill his shoes because he was the younger brother. And I can write I can write the whole damn thing for you, but
yes, but the way he's like, oh, blah blah blah. If the idea is that character was always just perfect, like was always just a loving, you would know that you're not like your brother, and you would know, like, it's not like he got angry and was like, you're just like your father, and stormed out, like sensitive like your father. Like, what is the like, which storyline are we anyway? Useless, wasting my time. I call that shit.
I know I'm over this whole storyline as well. Like, I'm so over Frank. I'm so over him having this attitude. I thought we were past it, and now he's like just jumping in at the very last minute to cause a problem. And I'm just like, you're right. Where is Mary? Tell him to get the fuck out of the house and be like, he can grieve his dad however he wants to. If it's writing a journal, at least he's not like doing drugs or bullying people. Like, fuck, like, relax. Like, I don't know. Anyways, that is the end of the episode. We are, like I said, this is the fourth, 17, 18, 19, 20. We have 3 more episodes before the end. How do you think that Riverdale's going to end, since I have you on this pod? What do you think is going to happen?
I think that a whole bunch of things are going to happen, and then all of a sudden Tabitha's going to show up, and then everyone's going to go, oh my gosh, I'm not in the 19 whatevers. I don't know. Here's the thing. I'm going to pretend like I got these gripes, but I'm going to watch it. I'm invested. I didn't come this far to then stop watching it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys like, cool, like, we're here, this is our, like, this is a guilty pleasure for me. I love it, like, whatever. And I love what I love, and I love what I don't, and I like to complain about it when I complain about it. But I think that this is all going to be wrapped up in the next couple episodes, and it's going to just somehow Tabitha will have finally, it's going to show her untangling one last thing, and then bam, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Make sense.
I honestly,
yeah,
I'll be there eating up every moment.
Yeah. No, that's I love that. Yeah, it's true. At the end of the day, we're already at the very end. Doesn't really matter what we want or hope for. We're gonna get what we're gonna get. So just strap in and watch this hot dumpster fire of a show. Just take it to the end. Um, all right. Are you ready to get into our recap and roundups?
I am.
Recap roundups. Best moment.
What is your best moment?
You know what? I see, this is hard. These were hard for me this episode more than ever because I feel like I'm not going to give you a straight answer for any of them, but with good reason. So my best moments were the best moments of every pair. I loved Cheryl and Betty having their moments together. I loved Veronica and Josie, things that were nice. Jughead and Veronica having a cute little moment. Like, it's going to be over and it's going to be gone and I'm not going to see these characters. So give me all these cute little moments to be like, oh, like I loved it. So for me, I'd say, you know, best moment, I'm going to give it to Josie and Veronica, and just them really seeing each other was, you know, knowing that we're so close to the end of the season. I just want to see everybody hype each other up because I think when you're not a teenager who believes that any of this is so intense and you're just watching it for pure entertainment, what I saw were the actresses looking at each other being like, girl, this is the end of the road. Let's get some tears in our eyes. Let's have a moment together. We just did this like for all these years. Like, I just want to see that because I've only got 3 episodes left. So don't give me like the storyline. Yeah. But the point is, it was the best moment for me just to see them because I know the actors are looking at each other and feeling those things.
I love that. I love that. My best moment is when Veronica yells at Clay and Kevin. I thought that was like the funniest thing I've seen in such a long time. It made me laugh out loud. I thought it was really funny. I thought that Veronica delivered it really, really well, like being like, I hate you, you guys are the worst, you ruined this whole thing, the magic is gone. I loved it. I thought it was great.
WTF moment.
What was your WTF moment?
Like Archie's uncle, Frank. First of all, that wasn't even a cliffhanger. That could have happened in the first 5 minutes of the movie. I mean, of the show. Like, nobody cares. I don't care. WTF, Frank's popping off again. Like, who cares? Like, I can't even describe it to you any other way because it's just WTF.
Yeah, I agree. That actually was my WTF moment. I said Frank losing it on Archie about his dad. I'm just like, why did you all go that far? Like, it doesn't make any sense why you had to go so in on that. And also, like as a cliffhanger, made no sense whatsoever. But also, I throw the WTF moment of like Twyla and Archie coming back to give her flowers. Like, what did he, like, why are we doing this again? Like, I didn't get that whatsoever, but okay.
I'll give an honorable mention to Fangs telling Midge.
Yes.
That I'm going to get you out of there. What have we learned in all these seasons about the Sisters of Quiet Mercy? No one knows what kind of legal recourse they have. No one knows anything can get you sent in. And 90% of people bust their way out. So I don't know who Fangs thinks he's getting out with some money, but it ain't happening.
And he's literally like, we're going to bust you out as if they're going to go through the tunnels again anyway. So I'll see how that goes on.
MVP.
Who's your MVP?
This was tough. I'm gonna throw it to Veronica and Josie, but really Josie. But I also think if this was an award show, I would give Josie Best Actress. I'd give Veronica Best Supporting Actress, but I would cry just as equally at both of their acceptance speeches.
Them. Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it to Josie and Veronica because What was yours?
They were both mine as well. I couldn't choose between either of them. That was like what I put in my notes. It's so funny that we both had the exact same ones. Because normally I don't choose two. I'm like, I'm going to choose just one. But I really couldn't choose between Josie and Veronica. I would say like probably Josie at the very top of it all, only because she's coming in for this final episode. But I thought that both actresses did a fantastic job playing off of each other. They had phenomenal scenes together. I was just happy with the whole thing.
Black excellence.
Yeah, absolutely.
LVP.
Who's your LVP?
I'm like, I'm just gonna go in. Archie and Frank are both competing and trying to beat Alice for LVP. Now, I know Alice was not in this episode. Why am I bringing her into it? Because lately, you know, I've been about that. She's been my LVP. But Archie and Frank, like, they're competing. Like, Archie's poetry, even more so. But LVP, I'll have to give to the two of them.
Yeah, I would say Frank is my LVP, so you're on the money for that one for sure.
The best line.
What was your best line?
So I feel like I'm just the Josie train, but I gotta give it to her compromise line.
That whole speech, yeah, so good.
More so what it represented, but it immediately made me want to go back and watch that. And like, I just think it was, I love it. Like, I think it was a great line.
So good.
Just because of what it represented and the history behind it.
Yeah.
What was yours?
Mine was in the same scene, but it was from CHONI when she says, I was tired of this bogus town telling me who I was, tired of treading water in the Caucasian sea of opinions. I thought it was like, I've never heard it like said that way, but I just thought it was really, really, really well done. Like I thought the writing for that moment was on point. The Caucasian sea of opinions. Like tired of treading water in the Caucasian sea of opinions. Like, that is mint. I need that on a shirt. I fucking love it. So good.
Do you know what that translates to?
What?
I'm tired of having to deal with children that were raised by people like Alice and Frank.
Basically, yeah, exactly. Literally. Like, fuck all those people. All right, so before we go into our listener roundups, we had a comment from @JiffyPopCulture saying Ashley Murray was fantastic on Riverdale tonight. She was giving Earth a kit by way of Dorothy Dandridge and gave a mesmerizing performance. So happy she came back for this, and that Josie McCoy got her Hollywood ending. Clapping emoji. And then we have our listener roundups. We have @Shoni5on saying best moment, the Josie stuff and Cheryl and Betty friendship, WTF, the Archie and Twyla / Grundy stuff, question mark. MVP is Josie, LVP is the writers and Veronica dating. Their comment on this was, this episode really wasn't my favorite. Like, I'm really disappointed in what they're doing with these remaining episodes. We just gotta take what we gotta take. This is all we're getting, y'all. @Sierra says MVP Josie effing McCoy. This Josie episode was so good. Again, like I've said all season, why now? But this is an excellent send-off for Ashley Murray. Also, Veronica, she easily is the best version of herself this and last season now that Hiram isn't around. I do agree with that. Veronica is really, like, her character is super duper likable this season. I'm so happy about that.
I love recap listeners. They know what they're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. LVP, anyone that doesn't have any stakes in this plot, if there even is one, I want gone. Like Fangs, Midge, Frank, I need them out. I'm sorry, why did we decide in the 11th hour that Fangs and Midge need time and dedication when you've had storylines like BARCHIE that's been developing and growing since before the pilot and aren't getting enough attention? These final 3 episodes better be good, because they usually do pick up again quality-wise around this time. But this season's been a disappointment, so I won't get my hopes up. Oh, and Grundy too, like, girly, you're a predator, get out. Damn. Best moment, the screening scene where the film gets ruined. Veronica yelling at Clevin was so funny, and I love when they do scenes with handheld cameras because it just adds to the intensity. Overall, a really funny scene and helps me enjoy another filler episode. WTF, the Frank scene at the end, like, why? Like, I wasn't even angry or annoyed. I'm just tired at this point. It's the same conversation over and over again, and we don't get anywhere. Like, it's really hoping we'd find out what's going on with these old white men, but we know nothing other than that they suck. But why? Best line, I stopped caring enough about the dialogue because nothing means anything. Oh my god.
All time of death.
I know, right? Disneyland. Best moment, the Josie scenes with Veronica and Veronica. I know you didn't like them, you don't like them, but it was a win for everyone that shipped them since the early seasons. Okay, like, let's take it. WTF, the Archie and Twilight / Grundy stuff. I can't see any good explanation for this plot. MVPs Josie, LVP Uncle Frank for being him. And then final one is from @SweetToothWeirdo. Best moment, the Betty and Cheryl moments. They were adorable. Too bad they can't remember their cousins. That's true. I'm always, whenever they're together, I'm just like, but you guys are cousins. WTF moment, Archie reciting his poem in the dark room and Betty's time in the bathtub. Both made me uncomfortable. It was hard to watch. Why are we even here at all? This is the last stretch of episodes and we get this for our characters. Archie repeating his trauma and Betty, a teenager, exploring her sexuality constantly for us to sit and watch for the entire season. Also, why are we getting these supposedly underage girls in lingerie and young boys meeting up with sex workers? That's very true. It's something that we mentioned in like previous episodes of recap. Like, why are we putting them in such precarious situations when they're supposed to be juniors? They're not even seniors in high school. They're supposed to be juniors in high school. Just because we know as actors they're like older than that, like, doesn't make it feel right. And like, I don't know, there's a problem in America right now, so like, I don't know if this is the message that we should be sending by any means. I don't know. Anyways, I'm not going to speak on that. We already spoke about that quite a bit. MVP Josie, even though it was hard to feel for her struggles and determination when we only get one episode to digest it. I agree with that partially, only because I feel like with what they gave her, which was literally one episode, I think that they did a great job like pushing that out there. Josie, Ashley Murray did an amazing job, like really portraying that hard, you know, her life and how hard it's been being an actress and getting her name out there. Anyway, LVP, the writers, yikes, enough said. And the best line, the credits. Again, we get a credit one. Woo, that one always stings. But that is all of our roundups. Thank you so much for listening. We are ending this episode with thanking of our patrons for this episode. Our Rewinder squad, we have White, Cliff, Hannah, Julia, and Haley. Our Lit Rewinders, Tina Ann and Kate, and our Mommy Rewinders, Becca, Sarah. If you would like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind. And also make sure you check us out on all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and you can find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iTunes. Like, subscribe, follow, review, and comment to stay engaged with us at Recap Rewind. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to my hubby for joining me this episode. I really appreciate you standing in today. And thanks for everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.